Welcome back. Former President Trump is leading Vice President Kamala Harris in several key battleground states. New polls from Emerson College and The Hill show Trump is up 5 points in Arizona, 2 points in Georgia, 2 points in Pennsylvania, and 1 point in Michigan. They are tied in the state of Wisconsin. Meanwhile, a new Rasmussen survey has Trump up 7 points on Harris among likely voters nationwide. Harris was in Houston yesterday, giving a campaign-style speech at a teachers' union convention. She claimed that Trump will stop student loan forgiveness. Watch.
Donald Trump and his extreme allies want to take our nation back to failed trickle-down economic policies, back to union busting, back to tax breaks for billionaires. Donald Trump and his allies want to cut Medicare and Social Security, to stop student loan forgiveness for teachers and other public servants.
Joining me now is South Carolina Congressman Ralph Norman, a member of the House Budget, Rules, and Financial Services Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Your reaction to the Vice President?
You know, more worn-out rhetoric that we've heard from the Democrats year after year, Maria. And, you know, the thing about it, the 4 years under Donald Trump were some of the best years this country's ever had versus the last 3.5 years. The problem Kamala Harris has is her words have no meaning. People are feeling it in their pocketbooks. She talks about student loan forgiveness. I know in South Carolina, people are furious about giving loans away for money we don't have from the Treasury to pay off what should be, you know, the student's responsibility. And she doesn't understand the economy. She's never been in the business arena. Everything, the 20-point plan that Donald Trump has, he's demonstrated it the 4 years he was president. So it doesn't surprise me, but it's she can't back up anything that she's saying.
Well, I mean, look, they're sending out memos to Democrats to make sure they've got the right talking points about her, you know, branding and her performance, and they claim that she was never really named the border czar. What do you say about that?
Well, she was named the border czar. You know, whether and you can argue in the Rules Committee, they argued about naming her the czar. The bottom line was her task when she took over as vice president was to be in charge of the border. Right. She didn't even go there. And to say that you know she's never been to Europe either, she just didn't care is the bottom line. She didn't do anything. That's why we got a record number of illegals in this country, in excess of 10 million that we know of. Yeah. So her words are just empty.
Well, look, let's talk foreign policy for a moment, because former President Trump will be meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today at Mar-a-Lago. Netanyahu met with President Biden and Vice President Harris. They met in separate meetings on Thursday. His meeting with Harris coming after the vice president skipped Bibi's address to Congress. Harris finally addressed the violent anti-Israel demonstrators who protested Netanyahu's speech, burning American flags, defacing monuments, clashing with police. Harris releases a statement 24 hours, more than 24 hours after the protests. She denounced the, quote, despicable acts and hate-fueled rhetoric. Trump wrote this on Truth Social: if those people rioting in Washington were Republicans and conservatives, they'd all be in jail right now, facing 10 to 20-year sentences under this crooked administration. Nothing will happen to them. And then there's this U.S. Park Police's union chief told the New York Post that the officers were understaffed and left alone while being assaulted by a mob of thousands, Congressman.
Well, you know, we're a nation of laws, and Kamala Harris, one, not being in the chamber when the prime minister of the only democracy in the Middle East, and Benjamin Netanyahu, gave a fantastic speech. For her to be at a sorority and saying she didn't have time, the 50 cities that were torn to shreds, what, 3-4 years ago, she was part of the bond money to bail them out. There's no consequences for it. She actually encourages it. Donald Trump will change that. There'll be consequences. He'll put people in charge, and you won't have a shortage of law enforcement. But even better than that, he'll take the handcuffs off the policemen and let them put it on the criminals. and the ones that took the flags down in Union Square, that won't happen under Donald Trump without consequences.
Well, the House approved this bipartisan resolution condemning Vice President Harris's performance on the border, and you had 6 Democrats joining with you and your colleagues, all Republicans, in this vote. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, however, are claiming that Harris was never in charge of the border. Watch this.
It's a fake and fraudulent resolution. She was never assigned the position of border czar. They're making that up.
We are going to debunk the false, characterization of the vice president. She was not a border czar. That is not true.
Congressman, what do you say to that?
Well, if it's not true, what was her job then? I mean, Joe Biden put her in charge of the border, and you can argue about the name of it, but she was supposed to solve it. What'd she do? She did nothing.
Yeah.
She didn't even go there. The place she did go was didn't have many border crossings. So the Biden-Harris team is a complete failure at every level. Well, and the border, I'd like for her to explain what she's done then, the last 3.5 years for the country. She hasn't.
Well, let me bring Cheryl Cassoni in here, because, Cheryl, one thing that the Communist Party of China is very good at is propaganda. And they are rolling out the propaganda right now on TikTok to scrub any negatives about Kamala Harris and create this shiny new apple.
And, Congressman, I'm glad that Maria brought that up, because what you have seen from the Harris team, but it's not her team, it's actually another movement on TikTok, the source of which we can't identify yet, that is doing all of these videos and all of the support on social media to get to those young voters in support of Harris. Shouldn't we be aware that if this is coming from China, or it could be coming from Russia as well, we don't know, shouldn't that be investigated or at least looked at?
TikTok ought to be banned from the United States. China controls TikTok. And Kamala Harris, if you Google her today, you'll have, and I did early this morning just to see, how long she's been in politics. And it's just this glowing, whole glowing paragraph on how great she's been for freedom, how great she's done for uniting people back from her days when she was Attorney General. She's a San Francisco liberal, and if you want this country to be like California, Kamala Harris is your poster child to do that. But TikTok shouldn't be in the United States anyway.
Well, they're there, and they're certainly informing young people as they wish. Congressman, thank you. We'll be watching all of this. We so appreciate your time this morning.